Orc bounty hunter arrived 5 minutes before midnight, laid a warrant bearing Milo's face on the bar, and asked whether the inn had a room with a lock strong enough to hold a murderer. Milo studied the charcoal portrait. The artist had made his nose too noble and his shoulders too narrow, but the scar beneath his chin was exact. So was the reward printed below it: 500 silver crowns alive, 700 dead. Outside, the mountain storm erased the road one white gust at a time. Inside, the fire snapped, the shutters trembled, and the only other sound was the slow drip of melting snow from the woman's black cloak. "I can give you the last room," Milo said. The orc looked past him toward the stairs. She was taller than the lintel, and built like someone who had spent years dragging dangerous people out of places they believed were safe. Deep green skin showed beneath the hood. 2 ivory tusks curved over her lower lip, the left one banded with a strip of dull brass. Her amber eyes did not blink. "How many exits?" "1 door, 1 window. The window opens onto a drop steep enough to settle most arguments." "Beds?" Milo glanced at the warrant again. "There is only 1 bed." The corner of her mouth lifted, though there was no kindness in it. "Good." She picked up the warrant, walked around the bar, and pressed the edge of a short knife against his ribs. "Then I will hear you move." Milo raised both hands. Most guests begin by asking the price. "You are the price." 3 horse bells rang somewhere beyond the storm. The orc's expression changed. Not fear, calculation. She caught Milo by the front of his shirt, pulled him close enough for the brass on her tusk to brush his cheek, and whispered, "Smile. There are men outside who intend to collect you in pieces. And you intend to collect me politely? I intend to collect you breathing. Do not make me regret the distinction." The bells came closer. Milo reached beneath the bar, her knife pressed harder. Slowly, he brought out a room key. "After you," he said. She did not turn her back. She made him climb first, one hand closed around his belt, while the other kept the knife ready. Milo had hosted pilgrims with hidden bottles, merchants with hidden lovers, and soldiers with hidden stolen goods. No guest had ever escorted him to his own room. At the top of the stairs, the wind struck the inn hard enough to bow the western wall. The bounty hunter looked toward the ceiling, listening to timbers complain. "Old building," she said. "Old buildings survive because they know when to bend." Men say the same thing when begging. Do you hear it often? Not twice. Milo unlocked the last door. A narrow bed stood beneath the sloping roof, covered with a red wool blanket. There was a washstand, 1 chair, a cold stove, and barely enough floor for 2 people who disliked each other. The orc pushed him inside, followed, and closed the door. Then she slid the iron bolt into place. For the first time, Milo saw the full collection of weapons beneath her cloak. A hooked sword hung at one hip. A compact crossbow rested across her back. 3 knives were strapped to one thigh. A chain circled her waist twice, its final link ending in a locking cuff. Her black hair had been braided tightly against her scalp for travel. A pale line crossed one eyebrow, and a newer cut marked the strong curve of her jaw. Snow shone on her shoulders. She smelled of pine smoke, wet leather, and the clean iron scent of cold air. "Name," Milo said. "You know yours." "I like to know who is threatening me in my bedroom. It prevents awkwardness later." She removed one glove finger by finger. "Gara." The name suited her. Brief, hard, and impossible to mistake for an apology. "Milo?" "It is printed on the warrant." "Yes, but the portrait may have confused you. I am much broader in person." Her gaze moved over him with insulting patience. Milo was a 35-year-old human, tall enough for most rooms and not tall enough for her, with brown hair that refused to lie flat and hands roughened by splitting wood, lifting barrels, and repairing everything the mountain broke. He had opened the collar of his white shirt while working near the fire. Gara's eyes paused there for half a breath before returning to his face. "Turn around," she said. "Will there be dinner first?" "Turn." He obeyed. She searched him efficiently, finding the small knife in his boot, the wire pick sewn into his sleeve, and the folded square of paper hidden beneath his belt. Gara opened the paper. It was blank. "Disappointed?" Milo asked. Blank paper is rarely blank when carried by a wanted clerk. "I am an innkeeper. You were a clerk before you bought this place. The warrant is thorough. Does it mention that I make excellent onion soup? It mentions murder, theft of government records, destruction of toll property, and conspiracy against the crown. Nothing about the soup? Then I question its accuracy." Gara held the paper near the lamp. Faint lines appeared in the warmth, drawn in lemon juice. Milo watched her eyes track the marks. "A floor plan," she said. "Every innkeeper should know where his walls are." "Why mark the passage under this room?" Before he answered, a fist struck the front door below. "Open in the marshal's name." Before we continue, if you want hotter and uncensored orc-bound fantasy romance stories, I'll be sharing them on my Patreon page. These are the deeper and more intense scenes I can't post here, so check the description for details. Gara extinguished the lamp. Darkness crowded the room. Wind hissed beneath the window. Milo heard her move, then felt the chain close around his left wrist. The other cuff clicked around hers. "That seems inconvenient," he whispered. "For you. We are attached." "Exactly." The fist hammered below again. "Open, innkeeper, or we break it." Milo leaned toward the wall and pulled a narrow cord hidden beside the bed. Far below, a latch lifted inside the front door. Gara's head turned sharply. "You let them in?" "If I make them break the door, I will have to repair it." "You may be dead by morning." "Then the repair will be even more difficult." Boots entered the common room. 3 men, judging by the weight and rhythm. Snow was kicked from heels. One voice ordered another to search the kitchen. A second voice complained that the bounty hunter's horse was in the stable. Gara drew him close in the dark. "They followed me." "I assumed they came for the soup." "They carry marshals' bows, short limbs, horn tips, made for hallways." "You saw them through a wall?" "I heard the bowstrings creak when they came inside." Milo stopped smiling. Gara pulled the warrant from her belt and pressed it into his free hand. "Feel the lower corner." The paper was thick and stiff. His thumb found a rough patch beneath the reward. "Scraped parchment," he said. "The order originally said alive only. Someone removed the word only and added a higher price for your corpse." "Can you tell who?" "The same man who sent 3 archers after the hunter he hired." A boot landed on the first stair. Gara's fingers tightened around his wrist. "Where does the passage go?" "Nowhere useful." That was not the question. "It ends beneath the stable. The roof collapsed years ago." "Then why draw it in secret ink?" "Sentiment. I can break your wrist before they reach the landing." "And remain chained to it?" Another step creaked. Milo felt Gara lean closer. Her tusk grazed the side of his mouth. "You think this is amusing," she murmured. "No. I think if I stop being amusing, I may start being terrified." That silenced her for one heartbeat. Then she guided his chained hand toward the bedpost. His fingers found a carved wooden knob beneath the frame. The passage opens under the bed, she guessed. The bed is the lock. Move it. With them outside? The floorboards scream louder than the front door. The boots reached the landing. Gara pushed him backward onto the mattress. What are you doing? Giving them a reason not to look beneath it. She landed over him, one knee between his legs, cloak spreading across them both. Her free hand opened his shirt farther. Milo stared up at her. You have done this before, he whispered. Arrested men in beds? Often. That was not what I meant. Make one convincing sound and I will gag you. The latch lifted. The door opened 3 inches and stopped against the chain Gara had looped through the inside handle. Cold lantern light cut across the bed. Occupied, Milo called. The man outside shoved harder. By order of the marshal, open this door. Gara bent close to Milo's throat. Her breath was warm. Her knife lay hidden between their bodies, its point aimed toward the opening. The innkeeper is wanted, the man said. Gara gave Milo a look that required him to trust her or become a very convincing corpse. He slid his free hand around her waist. Her eyes widened slightly. Then come back when I am finished with him, she said. Silence filled the hall. One of the men laughed, another did not. You were ordered to bring him down, the second voice said. Alive, Gara answered. The warrant changed. Paper changes. My contract does not. 700 crowns, Hunter. We can divide it. You have already divided the reward. 3 men came upstairs. 1 remained below to block the rear door. The laughter stopped. Gara lifted 3 fingers where only Milo could see them. Then 2. Then 1. She rolled off the bed as the crossbow bolt tore through the door. The bolt crossed the place where her neck had been and buried itself in the headboard. Milo hit the floor beside her. Gara snapped her chained wrist upward, dragging his arm with it, and fired her compact crossbow through the narrow opening. A man screamed in the hall. You counted 4, Milo said. I smelled 4 horses. That is deeply unsettling. Open the passage. Another bolt punched through the door. Gara kicked the chair beneath the handle, buying them seconds. Milo crawled to the foot of the bed. With their wrists linked, Gara had to follow, covering the door while he found the concealed release. He twisted the left bedpost. Nothing happened. Sentiment, she asked. The wood swells in winter. I will kill you myself. Get in line. He braced both feet against the wall and pulled. The bedpost turned with a crack. Somewhere beneath the mattress, an iron bar withdrew. The men in the hall struck the door with a shoulder. Gara seized the bed frame. Together they dragged it sideways. The floor groaned so loudly that stealth ceased to matter. Beneath the bed lay a square hatch with an iron ring. Milo lifted it. A ladder descended into blackness. Smoke curled under the bedroom door. They set fire to my inn, he said. Only the hall runner, wet wool, smoke to force us out. That runner cost 4 crowns. Survive, and I will steal you another. You are unexpectedly comforting. The door split near the lock. Gara pushed him feet first through the hatch. Because of the chain, she had to descend almost on top of him. The ladder shook beneath their combined weight. Milo reached the dirt floor, and Gara dropped the final distance, landing silently beside him. Above, the bedroom door burst inward. Milo pulled the ladder release. The hatch fell shut. The displaced bed did not cover it, but Gara raised her crossbow toward the square of wood. Run, she said. That passage leads to a collapsed wall. Then show me why you lied. Milo moved into the tunnel. He had walked it twice in 4 years. The first time, he had discovered the hidden route while replacing a rotten floor beam. The second, he had carried a narrow iron box to its end and buried the box beneath 6 feet of fallen stone. Tonight, someone had cleared the rubble. Cold air moved through the darkness ahead. Gara felt it too. Her pace slowed. You said it was blocked. It was. Behind them, the hatch opened. A lantern dropped into the tunnel and shattered. Oil flame raced across the dirt. Gara drove Milo forward. They ran chained together through smoke and darkness, shoulders striking the narrow walls. The passage descended beneath the inn, turned sharply, and opened into an old courier chamber lined with empty stone shelves. The wall at the far end had been dismantled from the stable side. Fresh boot prints marked the dust. At the center of the room sat the iron box Milo had buried. Its lid was open. It was empty. Gara slammed him against the wall. What was inside? The chain pulled her body close to his. Her forearm pressed beneath his jaw. Firelight flickered in the passage behind them. A register, Milo said. Of what? People the marshal paid hunters to find. That describes every bounty register in the kingdom. This one recorded what happened after the hunters delivered them. The anger in Gara's eyes became very still. Trials, she asked. There were no trials. Voices echoed through the tunnel. Gara stepped back, but the chain kept them close. How many? 213. How many did I bring? Milo did not answer quickly enough. Her hand closed around his throat. How many? 47. For the first time that night, Gara looked as if something had struck her. The voices drew nearer. Milo could have lied. He could have told her that the people she captured were murderers, thieves, traitors, the sort of men and women who vanished because the world was safer without them. He had once told himself the same thing while copying the marshal's figures into clean columns. Instead, he said, some were guilty. Some merely knew where the toll's silver went. All 47 were listed as dead before you delivered them. Gara released his throat. You knew my name before tonight. Yes. You knew I would come for you. I hoped you would. Her fist hit him across the mouth. Milo fell as far as the chain allowed. Blood filled his lower lip. He remained on one knee. You placed the warrant, she said. I placed the accusation. The marshal added the price for my body. You used me as bait. I needed the one hunter in the north who always delivered prisoners alive. So you decided to make yourself my 48th mistake? I decided you deserved to know what your contracts were buying. Gara raised her fist again. A bolt struck the wall beside her head. She turned and fired in the same motion. Her bolt extinguished the approaching lantern. Darkness swallowed the corridor, followed by a curse and the sound of a body hitting stone. Stable exit, Milo said. Now. They climbed through the dismantled wall. Snow blew into the stable through an open side door. The horses were gone, including Gara's. One of the marshal's men had left a dark smear across the straw where her bolt had found him, but his companions had dragged him away. The storm had hidden every track within minutes. On a hook beside the door hung Milo's heavy coat. Gara took it, tore a strip from the lining, and wrapped his bleeding mouth with unnecessary force. That was almost tender, he said. I need you recognizable enough to collect the reward. You still plan to turn me in? You lied to me. Frequently. You arranged a false warrant. Only the honest part. And because of you, 4 men are burning your bedroom. Milo looked toward the stable rafters. Smoke was not yet passing through the wall. They are smoking the room, not burning it. You said so yourself. I was trying to comfort you. Despite the cold, despite the empty box and the hunters outside. Milo laughed. Gara stared at him as if laughter were another concealed weapon. Then the stable door slammed and a crossbow clicked from the loft. Gara pulled Milo beneath the feed trough as a bolt tore through her cloak. Still chained together, they moved on a whispered count. She vaulted the trough while Milo pulled the hay rope. The loft hatch opened beneath the archer, dropping him into the straw, where one strike from Gara left him unconscious. Milo looked at her. "What?" she asked. "You could have killed him." "Dead men answer poorly." She searched the unconscious archer and found a folded order inside his coat. The paper carried the marshal's seal. The message was short. "Recover the register. Burn the inn. Leave no claimant alive." At the bottom, beneath the marshal's signature, was a smudged thumbprint in black wax. Gara read it twice. "No claimant," Milo said. "That includes you. I can read. I am beginning to understand why you are upset." She gave him a long look, then unlocked the cuff around her own wrist. Milo waited for her to remove his. Instead, she fastened the loose end around a support post. "Gara, you are staying here." They emptied the box. "The register is somewhere outside." "Yes." "You do not know who took it." "One of the 4 riders. There were 4 horses because they wanted you to count 4 men." Her eyes narrowed. Milo nodded toward the open side door. 5 sets of boot prints entered before the snow covered them. The 5th was smaller and went toward the kitchen wall. "You saw that while running for your life?" "I notice what enters my inn. Apparently not false guests." The 5th never entered through a door. Gara followed his gaze. A ventilation panel near the kitchen foundation hung crooked. Someone had crawled from the passage before they reached the stable. Someone carrying the register was still inside the inn, and the smoke above them had changed. It was no longer gray. Black fumes rolled between the stable beams. The men had stopped pretending to burn the inn. Gara unlocked Milo from the post. "I thought I was staying here. I changed my mind. I am touched. You own the building. Tell me how to stop it burning." Milo pointed toward the far stall. "There is a cistern under the hay. A hand pump feeds pipes through the kitchen and upper hall." "You have water pipes in a mountain inn?" "I dislike carrying buckets." "I am beginning to believe laziness is your greatest virtue. Wait until you see the laundry chute." They dragged aside 2 bales and found the pump handle. Gara worked it while Milo opened the iron valve. Water groaned through pipes inside the wall. A moment later, a man shouted from the common room as freezing water poured through the ceiling. "That will slow the fire," Milo said, "and warn them we are alive." The laughing probably did that. The unconscious archer stirred in the trough. Gara removed his bowstring, tied his wrists with it, and pushed him beneath the straw. She retrieved her sword from the loft rail. "Kitchen panel," she said. Milo led her to the crooked vent. The opening was too small for Gara's shoulders, but the old wall around it was soft with rot. She drove her boot through 2 planks and widened the gap. "You could have used the door," Milo said. "Locked. I have a key. You should have mentioned that before I kicked your wall." You looked happy. They entered the kitchen through splintered boards. Smoke hung beneath the ceiling. Water dripped from every beam and ran across the flagstones in black streams. A pot of onion soup still simmered over the banked stove, as if the building were not under attack. Gara inhaled. "The soup is adequate," she said. "You have not tasted it." "It smells adequate." "That is the cruelest thing you have done tonight." A scrape came from the pantry. A narrow figure rushed out, carrying a register, and threw flour into Gara's face. Milo caught the thief's ankle with a stove hook. Gara lifted the attacker onto the table and removed the knife. Milo examined the book. "This is not mine. The spine is too thick." He opened it from a distance. A capsule broke, releasing green vapor. They escaped into the common room, but when the captive began coughing, Gara went back and pulled her clear. Milo burned the poisoned book inside the sealed stove. "He said it would only destroy the pages," the young thief gasped. "The marshal?" Gara asked. The answer was a frightened nod. Milo crouched beside her. "He gave you a false register that would kill you after the exchange. That means the real book never left this inn. Help us, or remain another mouth he removes." Gara promised the thief freedom when the storm cleared. After a long silence, she revealed where the real register had been hidden. Inside the mattress in the last room. They bound the thief in a dry corner with a blanket and a bucket of water. The other hunters had withdrawn from the common room, but their tracks led out the front door and vanished into the storm. They had not fled. They were waiting for the smoke or cold to drive their prey outside. Milo and Gara climbed the stairs. The hall runner smoldered beneath the water. 2 crossbow bolts still jutted from the ruined bedroom door. Inside, snow blew through a new hole in the window. The bed stood sideways over the open hatch, its red blanket dragged halfway to the floor. Gara sliced the mattress seam. Nothing lay beneath the wool but old straw. Milo ran his hands along the stitching. One section near the headboard had been sewn with new black thread. He cut it open. The real register slid into his hands. For 4 years, he had dreamed of finding it again. In those dreams, he felt triumph or relief, or the clean satisfaction of proving that he had not imagined the evil hidden in ordinary columns of ink. He felt none of those things. The book was heavier than memory. Gara closed the shutters over the broken window and relit the lamp. Milo opened the lock with the wire pick she had taken from his sleeve. The pages began with toll receipts: wagons, livestock, salt, wool. Then the entries changed. Each line recorded a warrant, a payment, a hunter's mark, and a final destination. Not a court, a quarry, a military camp, a private estate, or a blank space where a human life should have ended with a judgment. Gara turned pages slowly. She found the first entry bearing her mark. A tiny hooked cut through the corner, meant to certify that the prisoner had been delivered alive. Beside it, the marshal's clerk had written, "Died resisting arrest." The same words appeared beside the next mark. And the next. 47 times. Gara sat on the edge of the only bed. Milo remained standing. He understood enough about shame to know that comfort offered too quickly could feel like another accusation. "I checked their breathing," she said at last. "Everyone. I handed them over alive." "I believe you. Why?" "Because that is why I chose you." Her head lifted. "Chose me, like a knife from a drawer." "No, like the only witness who could prove the book was false." "You could have sent a letter." "I sent 3. 1 vanished. 1 came back with the messenger's fingers inside it. The 3rd produced my warrant." The fury in her face cooled into something harder. "You should have told me at the bar. Would you have believed an accused murderer who announced that your career had been built to hide slavery?" "No. That was my concern." "You still used me?" "Yes." He did not soften the answer. Gara looked back at the page. "I copied these columns," Milo said. "Not this book. The clean ledger the capital received. I wrote toll numbers and prisoner transfers. I noticed that the totals never matched, but I liked my wage and my warm office." When a mother came asking where her son had been tried, I told her to submit a petition. There was no trial. I knew enough to ask, and I chose not to ask until the silence became louder than the work. How many? 213 that I can prove. More that I cannot. And you bought an inn. I stole this book and ran. The inn stands on the old courier route. I thought I could send the evidence north. Then the marshal bought every rider before I could trust one. So you waited 4 years? I collected names, routes, copies. I learned how far the rot went. And I waited for someone who could carry the truth through a locked door without selling it. A bounty hunter. A bounty hunter with a reputation for returning children, refusing corpse prices, and breaking a nobleman's jaw when he tried to change a warrant after capture. Gara's tusks showed. He fell downstairs. Onto your fist? Repeatedly. Milo sat beside her. The mattress sagged, pulling their bodies closer. Their shoulders touched. Gara did not move away. The marshal arrives at dawn, she said. The road below is closed. The road above will be worse. We cannot carry the register through waist-deep snow while his men wait outside. There is another route. Your map shows only the tunnel. Because the map is not for passages. Hold it over the lamp. She took the blank paper from her belt. Heat revealed the floor plan again, but as Milo turned it, a second pattern emerged between the walls. Lines connected the stove, the cistern valve, the hall cords, the stable lift, and the great brass warning bell mounted above the roof. The inn used to be a royal relay station, he said. Couriers could defend it until patrols arrived. Every room contains part of the mechanism. And the last room? He tapped the drawing beneath the bed. The master lock. Move the bed north, the tunnel opens. Move it east, the exterior shutters close. Turn both posts at once. The stair gates fall. Gara looked around the cramped room with new respect. You bought a fortress. I bought a leaking inn with unusually aggressive furniture. Can the bell summon help? In clear weather, it can be heard from the watch station below the pass. Tonight the wind is wrong. Then we survive until it changes. Against the marshal and however many men he brings? You wanted a hunter. I wanted evidence delivered. You should have hired a librarian. Milo smiled. Gara's gaze fell to his split lip. Her hand rose, stopped, then touched the edge of the swelling with one blunt green finger. I struck you, she said. I noticed. You deserved it. I noticed that too. But I should not have done it while you were chained to me. Is that a bounty hunter's apology? It is the only one you are receiving. Her fingertip remained against his mouth. Milo could feel the heat of it. The room had become very quiet, though men waited outside and poison smoked below them. Accepted, he said. Gara withdrew her hand. The loss of contact felt larger than it should have. We need dry clothes, Milo said, and heat. The stove is cold. If we light it, they will see smoke from the chimney. Then blankets. There was one blanket on the bed. The others had been stored downstairs, where water from the cistern now soaked the cupboards. Milo lifted the red wool. You take it. We both take it. He looked at the narrow mattress. This is moving very quickly. Lie down before I reconsider keeping you alive. They removed their wet outer layers. Gara set her weapons within reach and stretched along one side of the bed in a dark undershirt and leather trousers. Without armor or cloak, she somehow looked more dangerous. Muscles shaped her shoulders and arms. Old pale scars crossed her green skin, not displayed and not hidden, simply part of her. Milo lay beside her, careful to leave space. The mattress disagreed. Its center had been softened by decades of travelers. They rolled toward each other until his chest rested against hers and one of her thighs pressed between his knees. "Your fortress has betrayed you," Gara said. "It has always had poor discipline." She pulled the blanket over them. Her body gave off an astonishing amount of heat. "You are warm," Milo said. "You are not." That sounded almost like concern. Cold prisoners walked slowly. He could not see her mouth in the dark, but he heard the smile she tried to hide. They listened to the hunters circling the inn. Gara told him about one farmhand she had delivered alive, then searched for 6 months later. Officials claimed fever had killed him. The register said he had survived nearly 2 years in the quarry. "Was that meant to comfort me?" she asked. "No. We have both had enough comfort built from lies." She turned toward him. "Why are you not afraid of me?" "I am afraid you will leave with the register. I am afraid the truth will remain too inconvenient for anyone to care. But I am not afraid you will hurt me without reason." "I struck you." "A debatable reason. You are an irritating man." Her hand settled at his waist, perhaps to keep him warm, perhaps because the bed gave them nowhere else to put it. Milo did not ask. He placed his palm lightly against her upper arm and waited. Gara closed the remaining distance. The first touch of her mouth was cautious, almost suspicious. Her tusks framed his lower lip. Milo stayed still until her fingers tightened at his waist. Then he kissed her back. There was nothing cautious in the second kiss. She rolled him beneath her, the blanket twisting around their legs. Her palm slid over his chest. Milo touched the powerful line of her back, felt old scars beneath his fingers, and stopped when she went still. "Do not stop because of them," she said. "I stopped because you did." Gara searched his face. "No one asks," she said. "I just did." The words changed something between them. Not surrender. Gara did not seem made for surrender. It was closer to a door being opened from the inside. She guided his hand back to her waist. "Then continue." Milo kissed her again. The great bell above the roof rang once. They froze. No rope had been pulled. The bell rang a second time, not from wind, but from the weight of someone climbing its frame. Gara rolled from the bed and reached for her sword. Milo went to the broken window. Through a gap in the shutters, he saw a dark figure on the roof, cutting the bell rope. Below, lanterns appeared along the road. Not 4, at least 20. The marshal had arrived early. Gara dressed quickly. Milo returned the register to the mattress, then reconsidered. The thief had hidden it there once. The marshal would search the same place. He opened the book, tore the stitching from its spine, and removed the pages in 4 thick sections. "What are you doing?" Gara asked. "Making one truth look like several lies." He crossed to the washstand. The bottom of its drawer slid free, revealing the inn's guest ledger. Milo removed 4 groups of blank pages and replaced them with the register sections. When he closed the bindings, the official evidence looked like the ordinary record of meals, rooms, spilled wine, and unpaid bills. The empty register cover went back into the mattress. "They will find it," Gara said. "They are meant to. And then, you collect me." Her eyes hardened. "No. The marshal expects you to deliver my body. If he believes the evidence is destroyed, he will pay you. I do not want his silver. I want his signed payment order. It proves he commissioned the altered warrant. His seal is already on the kill order. He will call it a forgery. The payment order remains in his own ledger. 2 matching entries, 2 witnesses, 1 living prisoner, and 20 armed men. You are the one who told me to hire a librarian. A librarian would have a better plan. Probably. We have us. Hooves entered the yard. Men shouted. The front door opened below without resistance. Gara picked up the chain. If I do this, she said, you obey every order I give. Within reason. She caught the back of his neck. Every order. Milo looked into her amber eyes. Yes. She locked one cuff around his wrist, passed the chain around his waist, and fastened the other cuff to itself. Then she tore his shirt at the shoulder, smeared a thumb through the blood on his lip, and pushed him to his knees. You appear to enjoy this part, he said. Silence. The word carried a new edge, meant for anyone listening outside. Gara kicked the ruined bedroom door open and dragged him into the hall. The marshal waited at the bottom of the stairs. He was smaller than Milo remembered. Or perhaps memory had made him large enough to explain 4 years of fear. Snow silvered his fur collar. His neat gray coat carried no armor, because other men wore it for him. A trimmed beard framed a patient mouth. He looked less like a tyrant than a man accustomed to having chairs brought before he noticed he wanted to sit. 12 soldiers filled the common room. More remained outside. The 3 hunters from earlier stood near the bar. One held a blood-soaked cloth to his shoulder. All 3 looked disappointed that Milo still possessed a head. The marshal smiled at Gara. I was told you had become difficult. I was told the price changed. Circumstances changed. She pulled Milo down the last step. He stumbled convincingly. 700, Gara said, when I see the register. The register was not in my contract. The innkeeper stole it. Then question him. That would require him to remain alive. Milo looked up. You always did dislike paperwork. The marshal's patient expression thinned. Gara jerked the chain, forcing Milo's head down. My payment, she said. The marshal studied her. You have delivered 47 prisoners to my custody. Never once did you ask to be paid before I accepted the body. The other warrants did not change while I rode. Do you fear I will cheat you? I fear everyone who smiles before counting silver. One of the soldiers laughed. The marshal did not. He signaled to a clerk waiting near the fire. The clerk opened a portable writing box and prepared a payment order. 700 for the wanted man, dead or alive, the marshal said. An additional 100 for the stolen register. I did not recover it. Then perhaps the innkeeper can tell us where it is. Gara wound the chain around her hand. After you sign. The marshal accepted the pen. Milo kept his face lowered, watching through fallen hair. The signature crossed the paper. The seal pressed into black wax. The clerk sanded the ink and handed the order to Gara. She read every line. Satisfied? The marshal asked. No. She folded the order and put it inside her shirt. But paid. The marshal extended his hand toward Milo. Now give him to me. Gara did not release the chain. The room tightened around that refusal. My contract ends at a lawful jail, she said. This inn is under emergency authority. An inn is not a jail. It can become a grave. Gara smiled then, showing both tusks. Paper changes, she said. My contract does not. The marshal sighed. Kill them both. Gara pulled the chain. Milo dropped flat as the first crossbow fired. The bolt passed through the space between them and struck a soldier behind the bar. Gara overturned the nearest table with one arm, sending bowls, cups, and 2 armed men crashing into the firewood basket. Milo rolled behind the table. Gara landed beside him. Orders? He asked. Stay low. I dislike that one. You promised. She rose above the table long enough to throw a knife. It struck the cord holding the western chandelier. 20 pounds of iron and candles fell into the center of the soldiers. Men scattered. Hot wax splashed across the floor. Milo reached beneath the bottom stair and pulled the red lever hidden there. Iron lattice gates dropped at both ends of the staircase. The first trapped 3 soldiers upstairs. The second split the common room in half, leaving the marshal and most of his men near the front door, while Milo and Gara remained beside the bar. "Your fortress improves," Gara said. "You have not seen the wine cellar." "Is there wine?" There was. 2 soldiers pushed their blades through the lattice. Gara caught one wrist, pulled the man face first against the iron, and struck him with the hilt of her sword. Milo seized a serving tray and brought its edge down on the other man's fingers. The blade fell through the bars. Milo picked it up. "Can you use that?" Gara asked. "I can point the dangerous end away from myself." "Do so." The marshal had retreated behind his soldiers. He remained calm, but his eyes moved across the inn, measuring walls and exits. "The bell rope is cut," he called. "The road is closed. No one is coming. Give me the book, and I may leave enough of this place standing to bury you in it." "The book burned," Milo answered. "The false one burned. Did you think I would not smell my own poison?" Gara looked at Milo. "He knew," she said quietly. "Apparently he has a nose too." The marshal pointed toward the ceiling. "Search the last room. Tear apart the bed." The 3 soldiers trapped upstairs moved along the hall. Milo glanced toward the cords beneath the bar. Blue controlled the shutters. Red controlled the gates. White opened the cellar sluice. Black connected the stable lift to the bell's internal hammer. The roof climber had cut the hanging rope, but perhaps not the striker. "I need to reach the stable," he said. "No. The black cord can ring the bell. The yard is full of men. Then distract them." Gara showed both tusks. "That order I like." She cut the chain around Milo's waist with a key from her belt and left one cuff on his wrist. "Third stall," he said. "The hay lift has a counterweight. Drop it and the hammer will swing." "How many times?" "Until someone hears or the roof comes off." "And you?" "I will make sure the guest ledger remains uninteresting." Gara gripped the back of his neck and kissed him once, hard and fast. "That was not an order," Milo said when she released him. "No." "Good." She vaulted onto the bar, ran its length beneath a flight of bolts, and crashed shoulder first through the kitchen door. Half the soldiers turned toward her. Milo pulled the white cord. The cellar sluice opened. Water from the overflowing cistern burst through a grate near the pantry. It swept across the kitchen floor, carrying flour, onions, broken crockery, and one shouting soldier into the common room. The men behind the lattice lost their footing. Gara did not. She moved through them like a ship through surf, using shoulders, elbows, and the flat of her hooked blade. Milo had seen violence before. This was different. She wasted nothing. Every motion placed an opponent between her and a bow, removed a weapon, or opened the route to the broken stable wall. The marshal saw it too. "Take the innkeeper," he shouted. 3 men forced the iron gate upward, using a bench as a lever. Milo backed toward the stairs. He had the stolen sword in one hand, and no illusion that it made him a swordsman. Milo threw a bottle of pear liquor into the fire. Blue flame made the first soldier flinch. A serving tray dropped him, and a kick to the second man's knee opened the stairs. Milo ran. The 3 soldiers in the last room had already cut open the mattress. Straw covered the floor. One held the empty register cover. Another tore drawers from the washstand. The third opened the guest ledger and began flipping through it. Milo threw the sword at the lamp. Darkness gave him the advantage. He turned the north bedpost, and one soldier stepped backward through the opening hatch. The red blanket blinded another. The eastern shutter bar knocked the third into the wall. A knife opened Milo's side before he escaped with the guest ledger, dropping through the hatch and running through the tunnel by touch. Behind the stable wall, the storm roared through the widened opening. Gara fought 2 soldiers beneath the loft, while a third tried to pull the side door shut. Her cloak was gone. Blood marked one arm, but her movements remained sharp. Milo emerged from the tunnel chamber and lifted the guest ledger. Still uninteresting. Gara caught a soldier's spear beneath her arm and broke the shaft against the stall divider. "Stable!" she shouted. Milo climbed the third stall toward the frozen counterweight. A soldier caught his boot, but Gara dragged the man from the ladder and climbed beside Milo. Together they broke the ice around the catch and released the weight. The bell's first note shook snow from the rafters. They reset it and rang again, then again, while bolts punched through the stable planks. The marshal entered the stable holding a compact bow against the captive thief's throat. 2 soldiers dragged the wounded archer behind him. "Enough," he said. Milo and Gara remained on the beam. "The watch station is abandoned for winter," the marshal continued. "You are ringing for the dead." "Then they will be in excellent company," Gara said. He pushed the captive thief forward. "Come down, or she dies." Gara looked at the young woman. The thief's face was pale from poison and fear. She had entered Milo's inn to steal the register. She had lied, attacked them, and helped men who planned to burn the building. She was also a claimant the marshal intended to erase. Gara climbed down. "Do not," Milo whispered. "I gave my word." "She did not hear you." "I did." That was Gara. A promise did not become smaller when no one else knew it existed. Milo followed. The marshal kept the bow on the thief until 2 soldiers seized Gara's arms. They removed her sword, knives, and crossbow. Another soldier took the guest ledger from beneath Milo's shirt. "An inn account book?" the marshal said. "Rooms are expensive," Milo replied. "You currently owe me for 12. The marshal opened the ledger. The first pages listed travelers and meals in Milo's handwriting. He flipped past the section where the official pages had been inserted, then closed it with contempt. "Burn it with the rest." One soldier carried the book toward the stove. Milo lunged. The marshal struck him with the bow. Milo hit the ground. Gara roared. 2 men could not hold her. For one terrifying second, neither could 4. She threw one against the stall, drove another backward, and nearly reached the marshal before a spear point touched the captive thief's ribs. Gara stopped. The marshal smiled. "There," he said. "That is why principled people are so easily managed. Give them one innocent life, and they will build their own cage around it." "You should try having principles," Milo said from the floor. "They might improve your conversation." The marshal kicked him in the side where the knife had cut him. Milo folded around the pain. "Take them upstairs," the marshal ordered. "The bed hides the tunnel. Put all 3 inside and fire the stable. By morning, the mountain will have buried the evidence." They were marched back through the inn. Flames climbed the pantry wall behind them. The common room had become a ruin of water, smoke, broken tables, and dropped weapons. At the last room, the soldiers shoved the captive thief through the hatch first. Milo went next. Gara required 6 men and a spear at her back. The marshal stood at the edge of the opening. "You could have been rich," he told Gara. "I have held your payment order," she answered. "Rich appears to be 700 crowns and the smell of fear." His face lost its patience. "Burn them." The hatch closed. The bed dragged across it from above. Darkness settled over the tunnel chamber. For a few breaths, none of them spoke. Then Milo began laughing. Gara found him in the dark and caught his shirt. "Explain." He put the bed back. "We are trapped under it." He put it east. Gara understood first. The master lock. The eastern position seals the exterior shutters. It also opens the old mail chute behind this wall. He felt along the stone until his fingers found a recessed handle. It turned. A panel opened into a shaft, barely wider than his shoulders. Cold air rushed through. "Where does it lead?" Gara asked. "Roof." "The roof is burning." "Only near the kitchen." "You say only too often." Milo entered the shaft. They climbed single file through darkness. The old courier route rose inside the chimney wall, fitted with iron pegs. Heat grew around them as fire spread below. Smoke slipped through cracks in the stone. Halfway up, the captive thief faltered. Gara climbed beneath her, supporting her boots on one shoulder. Milo reached the top and forced open a frozen grate. They emerged beneath the eaves. The storm had begun to weaken. Snow still fell, but the wind was turning south, carrying the bell's fading echoes down the pass. Milo crawled across the steep roof toward the cut bell rope. Below, soldiers carried oil from the stable. The marshal stood in the yard, watching his men prepare the final fire. Gara removed the cuff still hanging from Milo's wrist and tied its chain to the bell rope. "Can we ring it again?" she asked. "The counterweight has fallen." "Then we become the counterweight." She wrapped the chain around a roof beam and gave the free end to Milo. Together, they pulled. The great bell tilted but did not strike. The captive thief joined them. 3 bodies leaned into the chain. The bell moved. Its hammer struck once. The note exploded through the storm. Every face in the yard turned upward. Gara released the chain, ran down the roof, and jumped. She landed on the stable awning. The old boards collapsed beneath her, dropping her into the yard among the oil carriers. Milo followed by a less direct route, sliding along wet shingles, catching the gutter, and falling into a snowbank. The captive thief remained on the roof and pulled the bell again. The marshal raised his bow toward her. Milo threw a handful of snow into his face. It was not dignified. It was enough. The bolt flew wide. Gara crossed the yard before he could reload. She struck the bow from his hands and drove him against the stable door. Soldiers surrounded them. The marshal drew a thin knife and held it beneath Gara's ribs. "Stop," he ordered his men. "She is mine." Gara looked down at the blade, then at him. "No," she said. "I was never yours." She caught his wrist and turned. The knife fell. The marshal twisted free, slipped on packed snow, and crashed through the broken railing beside the tunnel entrance. One hand caught the edge. His body swung over the stone shaft. Gara stood above him. The marshal looked into her face and finally understood what fear was. "Help me." Around them, the fight paused. Milo reached Gara's side. Blood soaked his shirt beneath the coat. Smoke rolled from the inn roof. The guest ledger was somewhere inside, perhaps already burning. The marshal's fingers began to slip. 47, Gara said. "I can pay you." They asked me for help too. His grip failed. Gara caught his wrist. The sudden weight pulled her to one knee. Milo grabbed the back of her belt. Together, they held the marshal above the shaft. "Why?" he gasped. Gara bared her tusks. Dead men answer poorly. She hauled him onto the snow and locked her cuff around his wrist. The payment order remained inside her shirt. One of the soldiers raised a crossbow. A horn answered from the road below. Then another. Lanterns appeared through the thinning snow. Not the marshal's square yellow lamps, but the blue shuttered lights of the mountain watch. Behind them came a line of freight drivers, road crews, and winter patrol riders who had been sheltering below the closed pass. They had heard the bell. The marshal's soldiers looked from their chained commander to the approaching patrol. Some lowered their weapons immediately. Others needed Gara to look at them once. That was enough. Milo ran through the smoke and recovered the guest ledger from beneath an overturned chair. A burning beam blocked his return. Gara lifted it long enough for him to crawl beneath, carrying the book and dragging the trapped clerk with him. "You were told to stay low," she said as they collapsed in the snow. "I am very poor with orders." The inn burned above them, but it did not fall. Old buildings knew when to bend. By sunrise, the pantry and half the upper hall were blackened. The last room had lost a wall. The only bed had fallen through the floor and landed upright in the courier chamber below. The guest ledger survived with scorched corners. So did the marshal. The mountain watch placed him in his own carriage with Gara's chain around both wrists. The young thief gave her statement. The clerk produced the matching payment entry, and frightened soldiers began speaking. Milo sat on an overturned bucket while a patrolman wrapped his side. Gara stood before him, smoke darkening her green skin. A cut crossed one arm. Her braid had partly unraveled. She had never looked more beautiful. "Your room is ruined," she said. "You closed the door too hard." "The door survived." "Then you may still owe me for one night." Gara took the signed payment order from her shirt. The wax seal had cracked, but the writing remained clear. 700 crowns, she said. "Enough for a roof. It belongs to me." "You are charging me after all? I collected you alive." Milo nodded toward the marshal's carriage. "You collected someone. He is worth less." She folded the paper and placed it in Milo's open collar. "Repair the room," she said. "Will you return to inspect the work?" Gara looked toward the road. The patrol intended to leave as soon as the pass was safe. She would travel with the evidence and testify to 47 deliveries. Milo would go too, once he could stand without swaying. There would be hearings, cells, denials, and men in clean coats claiming they had never read the columns beneath their signatures. Truth would not become simple merely because it had survived a fire. "I do not know where this ends," she said. Milo touched the brass band on her tusk. She permitted it. "Neither do I." "That does not frighten you?" "Everything frightens me. I have decided to become selective about what makes me run." Gara leaned down until her forehead rested against his. "Repair the room," she repeated. Then she kissed him while smoke lifted into a sky turning gold. The hearings lasted 5 months. The marshal claimed the register was forged. His own payment book disagreed. He claimed the prisoners had died resisting arrest. Gara described the pulse of every living person she had placed in his custody. He claimed Milo had invented the missing toll silver. 3 clerks found courage after the first testimony, and the numbers spoke more clearly than any of them. Quarry gates opened before winter ended. Not everyone listed in the register came home. Nothing could make that ending gentle. But families received names instead of silence. Survivors received wages stolen from them. And officials who had confused seals with innocence learned the paper could remember the hand that signed it. Milo returned to the pass in spring. He rebuilt the pantry, replaced the burned rafters, and left the scarred section of the bar untouched. The mountain watch repaired the warning bell. Travelers began stopping simply to see the inn that had held against 20 armed men, though Milo charged them whether they admired the walls or not. He repaired the last room personally. The new floor was stronger. The shutters closed without sticking. The hidden hatch opened with half a turn of the bedpost. He widened the bed, stuffed the mattress with clean wool, and covered it with the same red blanket, carefully mended along one burned edge. He did not add a second bed. On the first warm evening of spring, a horse bell rang outside. Milo looked up from the guest ledger. Gara entered wearing a travel cloak the color of midnight. Her black braid had grown longer. The brass band remained on her tusk, joined by a narrow silver ring. She carried no warrant. The common room fell quiet. 5 months earlier, silence around an orc bounty hunter would have meant fear. This silence was curiosity. The travelers had heard too many versions of the story and wanted to know which one was true. Gara ignored them all. She placed 700 silver crowns on the bar. "Payment," she said. Milo looked at the coins. "For the damaged room?" "For half the inn." "I do not remember offering half." "You require someone who understands security. You broke 3 walls. They were weak. You threw a man through my feed trough. It remains usable. You encouraged the roof to catch fire. That was the marshal. You brought him." Gara leaned across the bar. "Do you want me to leave?" Milo had imagined this moment through every week of testimony and every lonely ride back to the pass. In some versions, he delivered a clever speech. In others, he made her wait long enough to repay 5 months of uncertainty. Instead, he took the room key from its hook. "There is only one bed," he said. Gara's amber eyes warmed. She took the key, caught him by the open collar, and pulled him across the bar for a kiss that answered every question the room had been too polite to ask. Then she led him upstairs. At the last room, Gara opened the door and inspected the wider bed, the repaired shutters, and the polished iron bolt. "No second bed," she said. "A tragic oversight." "And only one exit?" "One door, one window, one secret tunnel." "Acceptable." Milo stepped inside. "Should I ask whether you plan to stay?" Gara looked back at the inn below, at the road beyond it, and at the life neither of them had expected to find in the middle of a hunt. "No," she said. "You should close the door." Milo did.